The Space Marines, aka the Adeptus, Astartes. They are the genetically enhanced super soldiers of the Warhammer 40k universe, and they stand among the most iconic and fearsome military forces in all of science fiction. Created by the Emperor of Mankind during the Great Crusade, the Space Marines are engineered to be humanity's ultimate warriors, physically superior, mentally conditioned, and spiritually indoctrinated to be utterly loyal to the Imperium. Each Space Marine undergoes a brutal transformation process involving 19 specialized gene seed organs, which turn ordinary humans into transhuman killing machines. A single Space Marine is the equivalent of dozens of regular soldiers, capable of operating in any environment and trained in all forms of warfare, from orbital insertions to close quarters combat. Clad in power armor, massive, SEALs exosuits with life support and strange amplification, they are nearly impervious to conventional weapons. They are armed with bolters that fire explosive rounds, chainswords, and plasma weaponry, and they bring devastation wherever they go. But beyond their arsenal and physical prowess, it's their absolute fearlessness and unwavering devotion to the Emperor that makes them terrifying to face. And they are divided into chapters, each a semi-independent military order with unique heraldry, combat doctrines, and histories. And the most famous among them is the Ultramarines, known for their discipline and adherence to the Codex Astartes. Other notable chapters include the Blood Angels, noble yet cursed by a genetic flaw, the Space Wolves, savage and fiercely independent, and the Dark Angels, secretive and haunted by a dark past. But despite their differences, all Space Marines are united by their sacred duty to defend humanity from threats both alien and heretical. And they are few in number, only around 1,000 per chapter, so they are deployed where the need is greatest, often in situations deemed hopeless, and their enemies include alien empires like the Tyranids, Orcs and Necrons, racial legions from the Horus Heresy, and daemons of chaos that defy reality itself. The Zerg Swarm. If you haven't heard of them before, they are a nightmarish, galaxy-spanning force of bioengineered alien organisms from the StarCraft universe, driven by a singular, overwhelming instinct to consume, adapt, and evolve. And unlike traditional armies composed of trained soldiers or mechanical constructs, the Zerg function as a hive mind, guided by centralized control from entities like the Overmind and later the Queen of Blades. And every creature in the swarm, from the smallest larva to Ultralisk, is born for a specific purpose and obeys without question, making the Zerg the embodiment of biological efficiency and single-minded aggression. And what makes the Zerg so terrifying is their ability to rapidly mutate and evolve in response to threats. They don't construct weapons or armor, instead they adapt their bodies into the tools of war. Basic units like Zerglings and Hydralisks overwhelm enemies with sheer numbers and ferocity, while more advanced forms like Mutalisks, Ultralisks, and Broodlords dominate the skies and ground with relentless force. And the Zerg don't just fight, they infest, infect, and absorb. Anything they conquer can be harvested, recycled, or genetically repurposed to make the swarm stronger. And the Zerg do not operate through strategy in the human sense. Instead, they rely on brutal instinct and swarm tactics, often throwing waves of units at opponents to test weaknesses before adapting. However, when guided by a powerful, controlling intellect, such as the Overmind or Kerrigan, the swarm becomes far more than a mindless horde. Under their leadership, the Zerg are capable of executing devastatingly complex campaigns, orchestrating planetary invasions, ambushes, and strategic infestations. And this combination of overwhelming numbers, constant mutation, and central intelligence makes the swarm incredibly hard to defeat. So they are a biological force of nature, evolving with each battle and incapable of fear or hesitation. And their ultimate goal, especially under the Overmind, was to achieve perfection by assimilating powerful species, including the psionically gifted Protoss, and this made the swarm a physical threat and also an existential one. The Annihilation Wave. It is one of the most devastating and relentless military forces in the Marvel Comics universe, originating from the dark and hostile dimension known as the Negative Zone. It is commanded by Annihilus, a tyrannical insectoid overlord whose obsession with survival and conquest drives him to consume all life across the cosmos. The Annihilation Wave's purpose is to exterminate all sentient life, strip planets of their resources, and expand Annihilus's dominion until nothing remains. And the wave itself is made up of billions of insectoid creatures, ranging from small drones to massive biomechanical monsters capable of taking down starships and planetary defenses. And these creatures are bred for war, genetically engineered for speed, aggression, and obedience. The Annihilation Wave doesn't just deploy soldiers, it unleashes living weapons in the form of swarm fleets, hive-based command vessels, and planetary-scale siege beasts. And their ships, like their soldiers, are grown rather than built, and they operate like a viral plague, spreading, multiplying, and overwhelming everything in their path. And when it invades the main Marvel universe, it cuts a swatch of destruction, wiping out entire alien civilizations with staggering speed. And the Nova Corps, once the galaxy's peacekeepers, are nearly obliterated in the first days of the invasion. Even cosmic powerhouses like Galactus and Silver Surfer are caught off guard by the ferocity of the assault. Annihilus wields the quantum bands and commands legions of elite lieutenants, including fallen heroes and corrupted beings, making the wave of force even the most powerful Marvel characters fear. So more than just a physical threat, the Annihilation Wave symbolizes cosmic entropy and nihilism. It challenges the very idea of balance in the universe, turning the concept of war into pure annihilation without purpose or diplomacy. And the 2006 Annihilation comic event showcases the full scope of this army's terror, uniting unlikely heroes such as Nova, Drax the Destroyer, Ronan the Accuser, and the Silver Surfer to hold the line. The Republic Armed Forces. First of all, the Galactic Republic, often referred to simply as the Republic, is a vast interstellar government in the Star Wars universe, predating the rise of the Galactic Empire by thousands of years. At its peak, the Republic governed countless star systems through a democratic senate composed of representatives from member worlds. And while not initially a militarized government, the Republic maintained peace and order through diplomacy, trade, and above all, the influence of the Jedi Order, a group of force-sensitive peacekeepers who acted as guardians of the Republic's ideals. For centuries, this combination of soft power and Jedi intervention ensured relative stability across the galaxy. However, the Republic's military might became fully realized during the Clone Wars. In response, the government created the Grand Army of the Republic, composed entirely of clone troopers bred from the genetic template of the bounty hunter Jango Fett. And these soldiers were engineered for discipline, rapid development, and absolute loyalty to the Chancellor. Equipped with standardized armor and advanced blaster technology, the Clone Army was a cohesive, professional force unlike anything the Republic had ever fielded. And supporting the clone infantry were powerful Jedi generals who led military campaigns across the galaxy despite their reluctance to become warriors. And this combination of elite soldiers and mystical commanders made the Republic's army incredibly effective in battle. And its war machine included Venator-class Star Destroyers, LAET gunships, and various walkers like the HETE, and their coordinated strategies and technological edge allowed them to hold the line against separatist forces led by droid armies and Sith masterminds like Count Dooku and General Grievous. Yet despite their strength, the Republic's army was ultimately a pawn in a far darker plan, orchestrated by Darth Sidious, who masqueraded as Supreme Chancellor Palpatine. The creation of the Clone Army and the war itself were part of a scheme to dismantle democracy and transform the Republic into the Galactic Empire. And the infamous Order 66, embedded in the clones' genetic programming, turned the army against the Jedi and led to the fall of the Order. Thus, the Republic's military, born as a force to defend freedom, was twisted into the very tool that destroyed it. The Imperial Guard, aka the Astra Militarum. It is the primary fighting force of the Imperium of Men in Warhammer 40k. While the Space Marines may be the poster boys of the Imperium, it is the Imperial Guard that does the bulk of the fighting across the galaxy. Billions of human soldiers, armed with lasguns, tanks, and unwavering faith in the Emperor. They are not superhuman warriors, nor do they yield advanced technologies. Instead, their strength lies in the sheer numbers, industrial firepower, and unbreakable will. And the Guard is composed of countless regiments, drawn from the billions of worlds under Imperial control. Each planet contributes its own troops, often trained and equipped according to local customs and available technology. Some regiments are elite and disciplined, like the Cadian Shock Troops, while others are savage and unpredictable, such as the jungle fighting Karashan Devils. Still others, like the Death Corps of Krieg, are grim, trench-dwelling fanatics who consider death in the Emperor's name to be the highest honor. But despite their differences, all regiments are bound by one purpose: defend humanity at all costs. And supporting these legions of infantry are the tanks and artillery of the Imperial Guard, some of the most powerful ground-based military hardware in the 41st millennium. The Leman Russ battle tank is a heavily armored mainstay of the Guard's armored divisions, while massive war machines like the Baneblade super heavy tank act as a rolling fortress. And the Guard also fields artillery batteries, air support, and mechanized infantry, relying on overwhelming firepower to compensate for the fragility of their individual soldiers. And again, these are ordinary humans facing down daemons, tyranids, chaos space marines, and Xenos horrors that could tear through squads like paper, and yet they hold the line. The Covenant military. The Covenant is a powerful and theocratic military alliance from the Halo universe, composed of multiple alien species united under a religious belief system. At its core, the Covenant is devoted to worshipping the ancient forerunners and pursuing a misguided prophecy known as the Great Journey, a transcendental event they believe will grant them divine salvation. And this belief fuels much of their military aggression, especially their crusade against humanity, whom they see as heretics. And what makes the Covenant especially dangerous is the unity of several distinct species, each bringing unique combat abilities and technologies into one overwhelming war machine. Its military is divided into multiple branches, the most prominent being its naval and ground forces, and their fleet includes massive capital ships like the assault carrier and the CCS-class battle cruiser, and these ships often serve as mobile command centers and deployment platforms for ground troops, making the Covenant exceptionally dangerous in both space and planetary warfare, and their energy-based weapons, advanced shielding, and gravity manipulation technologies far outstrip most human capabilities in the early conflicts of the Halo series. On the ground, the Covenant deploys a diverse range of troops, each species fulfilling specialized roles. Elites are warriors with honor-based combat traditions and personal energy shields, often leading squads or commanding operations. Grunts serve as the cannon fodder, while Jackals provide sniper and shield support. More fearsome are the Hunters, towering worm colonies in armored exosuits, wielding massive fuel cannons and shields, and later Brutes emerge as the dominant shock troops known for their savage strength and ruthlessness, especially after they replaced the Elites during the Covenant Civil War. And what sets the Covenant apart is its combination of religious zealotry and advanced military technology, creating a force that is both fanatical and efficient, and their belief that humanity is an obstacle to divine ascension justifies their brutal tactics, including planetary genocide. And this unshakable dogma makes diplomacy impossible and turns every battle into a holy war. And during their peak, the Covenant was a nearly unstoppable force, one that pushed humanity to the brink of extinction. Sauron's army. In The Lord of the Rings, this army is a manifestation of pure evil, forced through domination, corruption, and terror. As a Dark Lord and former lieutenant of Morgoth, Sauron uses his immense power and cunning to build a military force unlike any other in Middle-earth, and his ultimate goal is not just conquest but total control, seeking to cover the world in a second darkness. And this army is not built on loyalty or patriotism, it is fueled by fear, sorcery, and domination through the power of the One Ring, which amplifies his ability to command and corrupt others. The bulk of Sauron's military might come from his legions of orcs. These include various types, such as the brutish Uruk-hai, larger, more disciplined, and able to march in sunlight, as well as goblin-like orcs from Mordor and the Misty Mountains. And these soldiers are numerous, expendable, and utterly obedient to Sauron's will. Orcs serve as the backbone of his war machine, manning his fortress, overwhelming enemy lines, and spreading terror wherever they go. His army also includes trolls, massive bestial creatures used as shock troops to break enemy lines, and wargs, wolf-like beasts ridden by orcs for fast deadly assaults, and perhaps the most terrifying are the Nazgul, his 9 undead ring wraiths, once kings of men, now enslaved by their rings of power and bound entirely to Sauron's will. And these spectral generals strike fear into all who oppose them and often lead his campaigns personally. And Sauron also allies with corrupted human nations like the Easterlings and Haradrim, who fight under his banner in exchange for power, revenge, or survival. And every siege and battle waged by his forces designed to demoralize and corrupt the enemy before the fighting even begins. And his fortress of Barad-dûr, guarded by the Black Gate, looms as a symbol of absolute control, while his eye watches increasingly and seasonally for weakness. And in the War of the Ring, Sauron's army nearly succeeds in crushing the free peoples of Middle-earth, and only through the destruction of the One Ring does his empire collapse. The Imperial military. Probably the most iconic fictional military force in pop culture. Established by Emperor Palpatine at the end of the Clone Wars, the Empire rose from the ashes of the Galactic Republic and quickly transformed into a galaxy-spanning authoritarian regime. And its military might be one of the reasons why, with the Imperial Navy and the Imperial Army forming the backbone of its oppressive control over thousands of star systems. The transition from clone troopers to regular human conscripts and recruits signified the Empire's shift from a centralized Republic-era fighting force to a militarized dictatorship that valued obedience over individuality. At the heart of the Empire's military strength was the Imperial Navy, a vast fleet composed of star destroyers, TIE fighters, and other capital ships. The sheer size and technological sophistication of these vessels allowed the Empire to project force across the galaxy with terrifying efficiency, and the Navy's primary role was to patrol Imperial space, suppress uprisings, and enforce blockades. Star Destroyers, especially the massive Executor class, became symbols of fear, capable of annihilation entire fleets and bombarding planets from orbit. And the Death Star, a moon-sized superweapon capable of destroying entire planets, represented the Empire's philosophy of absolute control through fear. Complementing the Navy, the Imperial Army consisted of millions of ground forces deployed to maintain order and crush resistance, and this included legions of stormtroopers, the Empire's most recognizable soldiers, known for their white armor and rigid discipline. And although often criticized for their lack of accuracy, stormtroopers were deeply loyal and symbolized the Empire's faceless, totalitarian nature. And in addition to stormtroopers, the Imperial military included specialized units like scout troopers, snow troopers, along with walkers such as the HAT and the HEST, used for urban assaults and planetary domination. And beyond its military hardware, what made the Galactic Empire truly terrifying was its strategic use of fear, propaganda, and overwhelming force. Entire species were enslaved, dissent was crushed brutally, and the Senate was eventually dissolved to remove any pretense of democracy. And its militaristic structure, combined with Sith leadership from the shadows, ensured that opposition was not only rare, but often suicidal.